I would say you need to have a specific why in terms of why do you want to work out? Because when we attach a type of emotion to our why or to our goal, we are more likely to stay with it to actually reach it. So when I hear people sometimes they're like, yeah, I went to the gym, but they don't really necessarily have any type of goal in mind. They just go just to go. I feel like while that is good, it can be a little bit of a waste because that also means that you may necessarily not care about missing it either, which I feel like in a way you should,
Oh yeah.
since it would be counteractive to whatever goal that you're trying to accomplish.
Welcome to a new episode of the podcast. ActiveCast is a podcast about exercise and training for streamers, gamers, and people with uncertain jobs. I'm your host, Marcus, or Faluin as a username on Twitch and other platforms. In this episode, I had a great conversation with Streetgrind, who is a US Twitch streamer and content creator. Street creates content around training, food, and health mainly, but jumps into gaming now and then. He also has cooking streams on Twitch where he shows alternative ways to make great food that most people like. Street is a deep source of knowledge and experience when it comes to training. He has a long history of training at the gym and has really collected in good ways of thinking around health and training. We talk about motivation, how to keep a routine up, and about something we all can relate to, food. Street talks about training and exercise in such a humble way and makes it sound like the most natural thing in life, and how it can be like that for everyone. So let's listen to what Streetgrind has to share with us. Hello there, Streetgrind. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I have to say, yeah, today has been, so far it's been relaxing. It hasn't been anything like ridiculously crazy. I didn't go to the gym, but I still did a lot of just an active recovery mobility type of movements, just so I could still get my body up and moving.
Yeah.
It's really important to me to be able to do that.
Keep it lubricated.
Yes, because depending on where you are, depending on what type of occupation that you have, you could be sitting all day, and our bodies aren't necessarily meant to do that. So it's good to be able to get your body feeling warmed up and good to go.
For sure. I am the same. I have an office work, so I sit down a lot. So I need to take breaks all over and do some exercises and stuff. So that's good. But let's start talking about a little bit about you. Can you promote yourself a little bit? Where can we find you? What are you doing?
Sure. I mean, you could find me on all platforms. You can find me for my live streams on Twitch. You can catch my daily motivation and thoughts on Twitter, Instagram. You'll find a lot of fitness type of routines and exercises and tips that I share there. YouTube, I repurpose some of my content on other platforms like my cooking streams, and also create some evergreen content there, and TikTok. So you can find me on all those platforms. And I'm more of a lifestyle based creator. So I focus on helping others achieve living a balanced lifestyle through my content. So which is why I do cooking streams where I focus on creating meals that are good, but also you won't feel guilty about eating them in terms of how the protein, carbs, and fat are broken down. I also do workout streams where I share the types of workouts that I do. I share why am I doing a specific type of movement. I also answer questions for people about any type of advice that they may be looking for. And then I also do a little bit of gaming from time to time, and just like to be able to talk and have conversations with people. That's the main thing for me, is always being able to connect with people and being able to connect with other people in different types of elements, whether I'm cooking, whether I'm working out, whether I'm gaming. It's just that's always the main thing.
Yeah. So very, very health focused, so to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So it's a Streetgrind all over all platforms?
You should have, all platforms. Yep. If you search for that name, you should be able to find me.
Yep. I found you.
Yeah, you found me. So I think sometimes it can be hard trying to have the same name like everywhere, because the internet's been around a long time and you don't know who has held the name before you. But it should be able to find me on all the different platforms.
Yeah. So that's I got your name from two others that I have had as guests before, Tugboat and Tutti Kiri, and I think you know about them.
I do know. Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. And so I looked you up on Twitter, and the first thing I saw when I come on Twitter was what you have said there. You write motivation, meals, and movement, and I was like, damn, I need this guy.
We actually went through a little bit of a shift in my content direction. So I probably have been creating this type of content with the cooking and the workout streams probably for about 2.5 months now. And it feels good to be able to have that type of focus of, this is where I believe I'm gonna make the biggest impact or make a difference, as opposed to just doing kind of random types of content, just being able to niche down. And so far it's been, the feedback has been very receptive. It's been very positive, and I'm feeling more comfortable with what I'm doing now as opposed to what I was doing before.
So what did you do before?
I mean, before it was just kind of just like variety gaming type of content. So it was very contrast to what I was putting out on Twitter, on Instagram, those other types of places. Okay. So now being able to bring that to Twitch, and now everything kind of like funnels together, and there's like a common consensus core point of what my content is about. So that feels pretty good. Yeah,
that's super good. That's a smart idea to do that, for sure. Can you tell me a little bit about your training? What are you doing? What are you doing for training? You said going to the gym. Do you do more stuff, or is basically?
It's mostly a lot of just gym work. So I've probably been working out for close to a decade. So right now I'm just focused on like bodybuilding style type training. So I work out roughly 5 days a week, where I'm able to hit specific parts of my body twice a week with a 48-hour type of resting period. I feel like that's more like the optimal time for me, for my body to recover and being able to hit it again. But it wasn't always like that with my training. Some of it I did a push-pull legs type of split at one point for a good while, but then I realized I wasn't pushing myself as hard as I could have been during those 6 days. So I condensed it to 5 days. I increased the intensity up a little bit, got an extra rest day out of it, and I'd say I'm seeing more results now than I did before.
So what do you do on your rest days? Or you just like popcorn and the couch?
No, well, I wouldn't say just completely rest. I mean, I do just a basic. I do some stretching. I do some mobility recovery type of exercise. I do some core work too, because I don't really think that is a strenuous type of workout to do, as opposed to, if I have like a lower body day or something. So that's probably the gist of what I would do on those types of days.
So it's more active resting than just being.
Yeah, it's more active resting. It's not like a completely just like flat, like I'm not doing anything. I'm doing at least something.
At least something. All right.
Yeah, at least something. Something is better than nothing.
For sure. Absolutely so. But do you do any cardio, or it's just like, or is strength?
I do cardio towards the end of my workout, so I probably anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes, and I have to say it's definitely has helped with me burning more calories, and I do them at the end of the workout as opposed to the beginning. Is just because I don't want to have that type of fatigue already set in before I really get into my lifting, which is the core of what I'm trying to work on. But so far that's been wonderful, adding that to my training. I wasn't doing it before, but ever since I've added it back in. It's been great.
Yeah, it's very often I hear that if you're trying to build muscle mass, it's most of the people I hear benefit from having some kind of cardio. And I heard that same thing that you say. If you put it afterwards, you can bring the energy you need into the building the muscles, and then you do the cardio afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've heard that from others too. So that's interesting. That it seems to be a coherent line in that.
Yeah, I find out, at least for like strength training, if it was more kind of like endurance based, I can kind of see if you would have your cardio at the beginning, but I'm not really focused on it like endurance like that. I'm more focused on strength.
Yeah, it's different for me. I'm a climber and I'm a runner.
Okay.
So I need to have an endurance muscles and
oh yeah.
So I cannot at all work out as you are, because that will if I build the muscles you have, because I have seen your muscles, I would not be a good climber for sure. Because
and I can say the same for me, for you as well, being a runner and whatnot. Like running, even though I do have long legs and a longer stride, my type of training, I'm just not 100%. I'm not conditioned for that. So you can say the same thing. Like if me running with as much weight as I do now, I don't know if it'd be like more detrimental to me.
Yeah, probably, because your tendons and stuff are not used to it and they're not trained for it. I'm an ultra runner, so I run like 10 hours straight. So my body is trained for that for many years.
Right.
But if I go in and do your routine, I would probably break something, because I'm not used to that. My tendons are not used to it. My muscles are not used to it. So so that it's totally different kind of training, but it's still movement, and it's way better than just sitting still for sure.
Oh yeah, I think anything, even if you were able to take a walk, it doesn't even have to be like a ridiculous walk. It could be like a 15-minute walk or something. That's definitely better than sitting inside all day.
For sure. So what are your motivators? You do train a lot, and where you're at the point where you train 5 days a week, and you have like a set, you have a schedule you work for and so on. But have you always been there?
Have always been where?
Like having that like schedule and going to the gym every day, and like have it always been a part of your life?
Yeah, so it's been a real big part of my life. Right. I have to say, ever since I first started, September of 2012 was when I like first started like getting into the gym, and even from like that point on, even if it just like starting, I had like a little bit of a schedule in terms of what I was working and whatnot. But just over time, it just kind of evolved. But the schedule was still the same. That consistency was still the same throughout. Even when I moved states and I moved cities, one of the first things in my mind is like, okay, where's the nearest gym? Where's the nearest gym? That's going to become a constant part of my routine. It was one of those things that I wasn't going to give up and kind of just like let go. So it's been a part of me for a long time. I feel I don't know where I would be without it, to be honest with you, because it spawned a lot of different types of opportunities, different types of people that I have came in contact with. So I have no idea where I would be today if I didn't have that consistency, that schedule, the type of workout regimen that I do.
So what is your motivator? Because even if you have a long like tradition in doing the like working out and training, sometimes it's really hard with the motivators. So do you know what are your motivators to keep going, and to every time you move you find the nearest gym or the best gym you can find, and or whatever. But what is your motivator for that, to keep it up? Because it's very easy to lose.
I think it's something I've grown to love. So like I think as we start something, we have a goal that we want to go ahead and reach. And at that time when I first started, I did have a goal, and it's like once I achieved that goal, throughout the journey, it's grown into like like a passion and grow into like a love for it. So it's like if you love something, then you would do anything in your power to try to go ahead and keep that close to you. So if I didn't have the love of being able to go into the gym every day and focus on being just 1% better every day, then I probably wouldn't be working out as either A, as much as I do, or B, at all. But if I'm talking about like actual like motivators, I think it's more so of the people that I'm able to impact is what motivates me. Because there's so many. Every now and then I'll get a DM from somebody where they may not interact with me per se, but they see the type of content that I put out and they're like, Street, even though I may not interact with your stuff all the time, I see what you put out and you've kind of sparked something in me to start my journey. And they'll tell me their story. They'll tell me that, hey, if I didn't see your content, I probably wouldn't have lost 30 pounds or anything like that. So those hearing those types of stories of being able to make an impact, doing what I love, and it doesn't feel forced. It just keeps me going.
Yeah. So to motivate others, that is your motivator. That is what you say.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's amazing when you coach people or inspire people or motivate people, or they come back to you and you say, you motivate me or inspired me to do this. It's such a good feeling.
Yeah, there's honestly there is no other real feeling like that. People are like, hey, I did this because of you, and it puts you in that state where if I wasn't there or if I wasn't doing X, Y, and Z, there's a chance that you wouldn't have done what you did. So it's something that I don't take lightly.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I understand that feeling you have for that. Absolutely. You said that you mentioned to reaching the goal and then go from there. Can you dive in a little bit more in that? Like, can you talk a little bit about how you think about your goals and how do you set them, and like
I can only really talk about it from my perspective, my example. So like my goal initially was just to get big, so to put on size. So I was at this height. I'm about 6 feet 5 inches, which I think is about like 195 centimeters or something like that. But I was only probably about 170 pounds. So like there was a lot of room for me to grow. And I didn't have like a set weight or anything. I was just like, I need to go ahead and just put on some size. So I set a plan in place for my workouts and my meals. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, I actually look like okay. But as obviously as you reach a goal, it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And then I started to pinpoint little things that I noticed that could be improved upon. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and work on this a little bit. I'm going to work on this. Or maybe I can work on my flexibility more. Maybe I can try to improve on this lift. So like once I got to that goal, then I started really being a little bit more intentional about like, okay, I want to improve this thing, this thing, this thing, and then so on and so forth. So it's more so I always try to move the goalpost just a little bit more every time I want to like improve on something. That's kind of how I approach my goal setting. Like right now, I'm more so focused on my mobility training, being able to squat at a certain level. I squat parallel now, but being able to squat maybe a little bit below parallel with like a specific amount of weight, or being able to press a certain amount of pounds. That's kind of where I'm at with my style of training.
Can you explain for the listeners what squatting parallel means?
So squatting parallel is basically where you are at a I want to say it's at like a 90 degree angle with the ground. I want to say.
Is it the ties are like in parallel with the ground?
Yeah, basically in parallel with the ground. So you can kind of see, if you have like a camera and you film yourself, you could say, okay, my hips and my thighs, they were basically like they would never actually touch if you actually saw the lines like together. So I tried. That's where you would get like the most activation for the muscles in that stance, from your glutes to your quads, and so on and so forth.
So you when you talk about the goal setting, so first of all, it was to gain some more mass. And how did you know when you reached that goal? Or was it just a feeling that you had? It was like, oh, now I have mass, so now I have to improve some certain stuff. Or
it was just a feeling I had, and I also took progress photos too. I took like every week or so photos. When I really focused on the number on the scale, I kept that in perspective as well. And then when I noticed, like when I hit over 200 pounds for like the first time, I was like, oh wow, okay, so I actually put on like 30 pounds. I mean, it wasn't obviously all muscle, but it was still, in the grand scheme of things, like 30 pounds. It's like, okay, wow, I actually did do something. I actually did make a difference in my overall aesthetic and my overall physique.
Yeah.
And then I realized that wasn't enough. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do more.
So it was so like it was kind of when you reached that goal, it became a motivator for you to keep going and to put up new smaller goals, because what you're talking about is to make gradual goals so you can reach them, and not put in this like huge goal in the future somewhere and start working towards that, because that's very hard to do.
Yeah, it can be difficult, and like I think it's always important to have like the small little milestones that will eventually add up to the big goal. Now, I'm not saying that having a big goal is bad. It's not. But having those smaller goals there to kind of help you build that momentum to get to that main goal is very important.
Yeah. I mean, a main goal far in the future, that's all good, but it's very hard to only have that. So what you're saying is that break it down and make it stepwise towards that.
Yeah.
So that's
steps, and make it attainable. Come up with a plan for each little point, and then work on it from there.
Yeah. So if or I know you do this, but when you talk about if someone comes to you, like a gamer or a streamer or whatever, comes to you and asks you how do I start? How I cannot keep my motivation up. I can go to the gym, but I cannot keep my motivation up. How would you approach, or what would you say to a person that wants to start working out? And
I would say you need to have a specific why, in terms of why do you want to work out, because when we attach a type of emotion to our why or to our goal, we are more likely to stay with it to actually reach it. So when I hear people, sometimes they're like, yeah, I went to the gym, but they don't really necessarily have any type of goal in mind. They just go just to go. I feel like while that is good, it can be a little bit of a waste, because that also means that you may necessarily not care about missing it either, which I feel like in a way you should.
Oh yeah.
Since it would be counteractive to whatever goal that you're trying to accomplish.
I think I haven't thought about it in that way before. But that's really well phrased, that if you just go there, like they really don't care, they also don't care if they miss it. That's really good. I like that.
Yeah. At least that's how I think of it. Because I can't imagine, me doing something just to do it, because that kind of means I am very, what's the phrase that I'm looking for? very nonchalant about it, and I feel like you should be very intentional about it.
Yeah. I mean, you seem very intentional with your training, so it makes sense, and I agree with you. I think you have to have some kind of, like, I was almost saying urgency to it, but you need to have some purpose with it at least, for sure. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So if we dip into, because you mentioned it before, and I also know that you're doing like cooking streams and so on. Can you give me some thoughts about your, like, because in my sport, like ultra running, it's just like eat as much as you can and like take all the pizzas you can and just grab it, because you will waste like 20,000 calories when you run for 10 hours. But I know when you're doing bodybuilding, it's way more thought through and more important in some way. So can you talk a little bit about that, and also like, let talk about your thoughts about that, if you could do that.
So yeah, sure. So one of the things that I like as bodybuilders do, they have like a specific type of macronutrient breakdown. So like they would try to consume a specific amount of carbs and fat and protein throughout their day over a specific type of cycle, whether it's like a maintenance cycle or a bulking cycle or a cutting cycle for a show. Like there are specific numbers that need to be met in each of those three categories to help you achieve a specific type of physique. So like right now, one of the big things, protein will always be a big thing to consume for me. So I try, this is just specifically for me, I try to consume at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, because I have a lot of lean muscle mass that I need to maintain. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's someone else needs to also adhere to that as well. And that's not the case at all, because everyone's body is different and has different type of caloric needs based on where they're at, based on their activity level, and like so on and so forth.
But you do calculate it thoroughly, or do you do it a little bit on feeling?
Right now, I do it based on feeling, because I'm more in just like a maintenance phase right now. So just keeping where I'm at in terms of like weight wise, and just working on building strength that way. But when I get into a specific a bulking cycle, I will be more intentional about it, because as a bulk, you can eat a lot and not realize how much you're actually are eating, and next thing you know, you realize you're overeating. You're like, oh yeah, that's a little bit more than I should have. So yeah, as you have very specific goals, if you're cutting or you're bulking, you'll be more intentional and calculate it a bit more. You'll look at it a bit more closely, like, okay, I'm trying to gain half a pound a weight a week or so, and you would track that accordingly through your scale. You'll track that through photos, because the scale doesn't always tell the whole story. I always tell people that, like, you can, because while fat and muscle, they do weigh the same, muscle is more dense than fat. So that's what I always try to tell people too.
And it's also like a lot about like how much water have you been drinking, and when did you do that, and stuff like that.
Water's a big water. Shouldn't underestimate water. Shouldn't underestimate your sleep schedule, because that's where a lot of your recovery will come from. And so there's a lot of things that kind of like factor in when you're attempting to go through these different types of cycles.
Oh my god, sleep is such a it's so I have a hard time to get sleep in.
Okay.
I mean, I do sleep a lot, because I sleep what I need. But it's such a hard thing to, like, it's so important for your training and your exercise and so on, and like for your whole functioning as a human. But sometimes it's so hard and it's hard for a lot of people to get in there. But it's
even
really...
I struggle sometimes too. Yeah, no, believe me, I struggle sometimes as well, because I try to hit 6.5 hours. I try to, but sometimes things it doesn't work out that way, and I may end up hitting like 5 or so, or 5.5. And while I know it's not the best, I try to recoup that time on another day.
So do you sleep 6.5 hours?
And for the most part, yeah, I try to. That's what is like that's like the minimum for me. But if I had the ability to not sleep with an alarm, like if I slept with no alarm, I probably would naturally sleep maybe 7.5 hours.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I at least try to get 6 hours in, but if I don't sleep with an alarm, I sleep 7 hours. I'm very consistent in that. So
right, same.
But it's very different for people. When I was in my 20s, I slept 4 hours without an alarm. 4 hours. I couldn't sleep more. I just woke up after 4 hours. I cannot do that anymore. I got old.
Yeah.
But I know some people need like 10 hours or so. So it's but it's the same thing there. It's very individual, so you need to know about it. So
everyone's body has they have different needs.
Yeah, for sure. So what are you when you are streaming cooking? Do you have cooking streams? What food? What kind of food are you preparing, and what are you like? What are you talking about in those? Because I will admit I haven't been able to catch your streams because we are on opposite side of the globe. So you stream
time zones are difficult.
Yeah. So you stream when I'm sleeping. I'm in the middle of my sleep when you're streaming. I watch some VODs and stuff, but what kind of food are you preparing, and what are you talking about when you do those, and why?
Well, we cook a lot of variety of different things. Like I said, just some of the things that we've made. I've made nachos. I've made homemade chicken ramen. I made like an imitation of Taco Bell's Crunchwrap Supreme. I focus mainly. I try to make recipes that you could find in like a restaurant or so, and then we try to go ahead and tweak the ingredients a little bit so it's not as ridiculously caloric dense and fattening, but they're have more protein in them, so they're more filling, and like you won't feel guilty about eating them. So those are just a couple of things. I'm trying to think of other recipes that are like we've made before, because I try to plan them out monthly. But it's a wide range of different stuff that we make, and conversation is just kind of whatever comes to mind. I don't really restrict.
Is it connected to the training, or it can be whatever?
It could be honestly. It could be whatever. I mean, sometimes it can be connected to the training. Sometimes it could be connected to nutrition. There's been some times where people have asked me questions about what I eat, about what type of training that I do, and I can go ahead and dig into that a little bit more. But no, I just talk and chat with whoever is there, and we kind of talk about everything. Just focus on having a great time and continue to just eat while we do it. That's the main thing. And always keep the energy up too.
Yeah, it's such a big part also about food, the social thing. So
yeah, exactly. I feel like food, it is something that is everyone can gather around about. I mean, who doesn't like to eat food?
Yeah, everybody can relate to it somehow.
Exactly.
But then also, you said that you try to tweak them a little bit so they get less like calorie dense or fattening or so on. So you have some, you will be a little bit like an inspiration for people watching that also, of course. So which is neat.
Yeah, I just try to show people that like, hey, like you don't need to necessarily change your whole diet per se, but you can just make like little substitutions and tweaks in here and there and still be able to achieve close to the flavor that you would originally have, but you'll be able to get more like a higher protein intake out of it, or a lower carb intake out of it, and still be filling for you.
Yeah. Do you have any, like, do you follow any diets or so, or is just you eat a variety, like, keto and paleo and
Yeah,
like
no,
whatever?
I can't really say I follow a diet or so or anything
No.
like that. It's kind of just kind of just a little bit of everything.
Have you tried any?
No,
No.
no, I haven't tried any per se. No, no, it doesn't really interest me
No.
like that. Yeah, because I've been able to achieve the results that I wanted with what I've been able to do.
Yeah.
So it's what works for me. So
Yeah.
I can't really complain about that. But
Yeah.
everyone is different though. Some people, they like the keto based diet, the paleo based diet, and that's good. And that's good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I never done any diets. It's the only thing I do when I get into my super heavy training periods. I go vegan because my body can handle the meat, because it's too heavy for my body when I run a lot. So I cannot cope with it. I mean, I feel super heavy and super bad. So I need to go vegan, and I do that for some weeks, and I feel really good, and I put in all the training, and then I can go back and like slowly introduce the meat again.
Right? Yeah. That's smart, because meat it can be very very dense. No,
Yeah.
I understand that.
But do you eat a very meat heavy diet, or like the food, or do you have protein like shakes and so on, or do you take everything in from food?
Most of it is from food. I do have shakes probably after my workout is over, just because for some reason, I can't eat immediately after I work out. So it's always, I have like a shake and it'll hold me over for a little bit. And then like my first actual meal with food would be around lunchtime. But yeah, in terms of like the meats that I have, I try to not have like a lot of red meat in my diet, like beef or steak. I try not to. It's more like a once in a while type of thing. So it's mostly a lot of like chicken breasts, chicken thighs.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use ground turkey. Sometimes I will use seafood like shrimp. I will use salmon. I'll use cod.
It's such a bodybuilder thing to say. It's like, I eat chicken breasts. It's like, it's always the
Yeah,
first
I
thing.
know. Chicken breast. It's always a thing, because it's like
good
the
though.
leanest thing. Yeah, it works.
Sure.
But I think it's important to know that you can always change up how you prepare the chicken breast. Like, it doesn't always just has to be like straight grilled. It could be, you could make it like you can make chicken parmesan. You could do chicken fajitas. There's a lot of different ways you can prepare it.
Yeah, it's an amazing meat to use for it. It's lean, and you can prepare it in so many ways. So
it's so many different ways. Yeah.
For sure. So do you have any do you have any personal like high flying goals? We were talking a little bit here before we started the interview. We were talking about going up stage and so on. Is that a goal for you, or do you have any other goals that you strive for now, like further on, like a bigger goal?
Bigger goals. Well, yeah, I think stepping on stage would be a good, like a long-term goal of mine, because it would be the accumulation of all the work that I've done over this past decade, and not even had the thought about competing in a show. It wasn't until personal trainers that I have at the gym, they saw me leaning out, and they saw all the vascularity, and they saw I still had the size, and they asked me, "Are you ever going to do a show someday?" And I never really put any thought into it. And I was like, no, you know what, maybe I will. And it's like, yeah, man, like, you really have the physique, you have the height, you have everything kind of working for you. So it's like, okay, if I have these types of the physique for it, then, I don't see there being any harm of trying that out. So that's a goal of mine. I think another long-term goal for me, I want to be able to start up my own type of business for creating like workout nutrition plans strictly for creators. I think that's something that a couple of people have asked me about, and I think it actually honestly would make sense because I'm in the space.
Yeah.
People know me as that type of figure, and I have a lot of knowledge already, and I'm still working on improving my knowledge and learning about a lot of different stuff though. But I definitely see that as being a goal too, being able to train others within this space and being able to make an impact that way.
For sure. Yeah. It's really smart. I've heard others saying that not that they should do it, but that someone should do that.
Someone should do it.
Because I have been thinking when I have done those interviews and when I started way before I started the podcast, the reason why I started podcast was because I constantly got the question, how do I start? What should I do for training? Do you have any training for streamers? Like those questions came over and over and over again. So that's why I was like, okay, start a podcast and talk to people to inspire and so on. And there were one person that I interviewed that was like, do you know Twitch Legends when they have competitions in like CSGO and Overwatch and stuff like that? It's like, you should have one of those, but for fitness, for streamers and Twitch partners. That would be cool.
Oh yeah,
I give you that
idea. I think they have like a small Twitch Rivals thing. I think they do.
That's what I meant.
For power lifters.
Oh
yeah, they have something. Oh. They do. Yeah, I think they've been through. I think I've only seen like 2 iterations of it so far. I think. Yeah, I've seen some of that stuff. It's really cool. They focus on like the 3 like main lifts. They focus on their squat, the bench, and the deadlift. I believe they focus on those 3.
Right. Yeah.
So they do have something similar to that.
All right, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is it worldwide or is it a US thing or do you know?
I think the last 2. I think they've only been US based. I don't think they've been worldwide. I'm not 100% sure, but I think everyone has at least competed or participated in it. I think we're US based.
All right, that's cool. I think it's a really good idea. I think go for it. I will cheer you on for sure, and I will support you in every way I can because it's needed. It's needed in a lot of ways. So for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be the advice for someone who wants to work out, who'd never been to the gym, never like worked out for real? What would be your advice? How did it start?
Honestly, the best way to just start is to build up that consistency at first, because you don't want to get too overwhelmed with everything right at the beginning, because then you're gonna feel like, hey, I'm not really making the progress that I need to, and then you just end up stopping completely. So I would just focus on getting to the gym and saying, hey, if I'm only here for about 20 or 30 minutes, that is better than no minutes at all. And kind of just holding yourself accountable for, if I'm only gonna go 3 days a week, then those 3 days a week I'm gonna make worth it. And I think that's a good place to kind of just start to get yourself in the mood for it and to get your body acclimated. And once you have that under your belt, then you can be a little bit more intentional about your training and what you're specifically trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just to get there and build a consistency.
Yeah, just to get there. Yeah.
In my experiences, that's the hardest part, to build a routine. But when you have that, it's kind of easy afterwards. When you have
once you have it established in your life, then it's a lot easier. But when you're trying to figure out where do you place it, like do you place it in the morning, do you place it after work, do you place it in your lunch break? So just figuring out that and making it a consistent thing for yourself is the hardest thing, because sometimes things just happen and you may not be able to get to it at that specific time of day for you, and maybe you have to move it to later on, maybe you have to move it to the following day. So that, I think, it's just important to be able to find that place for it and be consistent with it.
Yeah. Have you had any longer breaks in your training? Like,
no, I've been very fortunate over my training, I've never gotten like ridiculously like injured to the point where I've had surgery and I've been out for months. Like I've had strains and sprains, but I still was able to train like around that.
Yeah.
But I haven't had any like really long breaks. And if anything, it's probably like maybe like one to 2 weeks maybe of that. But that's just like normal recovery. Like after like an 8 to 12 week period, you just need like that week where you're not you may be training, but you're not training as hard, so you can give your body that extra rest to recover, and then you can kind of bounce back the following week to get back to your normal training. But yeah, I haven't had like stop training for like a month or 2 months or anything like that. So I've been very fortunate.
In 10 years.
And as I was saying, in that amount of time, I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. But also that you not lost the motivation or so. You just keep going for it's.
Yeah, like there's been times where the training may have not been like as good, but I still hold it to the standard. Like, I was still able to make it, and that's still a win for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's impressive. I'm super impressed about that. That you have been so consistent for so long. It's unheard of.
Yeah, and with anything that you do, that's kind of what you need, right?
Yeah,
that long-term type of a consistency.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been training all my life, and I got hit pretty bad by COVID, so I was out from training and so on for like 3 months, and I lost almost everything. I went from going easily in quotation marks running a marathon to barely being able to run 5K. It's been a struggle. It makes me lose my motivation also. So I have a hard time to get going again. But I have the routine in my history, so I know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between people who are used to training and people who are not used to train. At what you said, like building the routine. Try to find out what works for you. Morning, evening, or like lunchtime, whatever. So that's absolutely. That's really cool. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap it up a little bit, I always have 2 questions that I ask the people I interview. And those 2 questions are your favorite exercise. And the other question is your favorite game, because most of the people I interview are gamers, and they do games somehow. So those 2 questions, favorite exercise and favorite game. And I know it's
probably I'm trying to think. Favorite exercise. Even though I don't program them as much, I really do. I enjoy deadlifts a lot. Deadlifts are awesome. Just because it's a compound movement that it hits a little bit of everything. It requires core stability. It requires leg drive. It requires a good grip. It's a lift that I've been able to, it's just a lift that people usually will lift the most out of. Usually, I know it has been for me. So that's probably my like all-time favorite lift. And
I agree.
Yeah, okay, it's so good. Like
when it comes to weight training, deadlifts are amazing.
Yeah, they're great. Even though, like I said before, I don't program them as much because they're so taxing, like exhausting and taxing, that I'm not able to hit other specific types of exercises that I want to, because I'm already gassed and exhausted from doing those types of the heavy sets with the deadlifts. But I still like it though.
Which is kind of crazy, because when you think about it, you take the what is it called, the thing you hold,
barbell,
the barbell, and then you just stand straight up, and then you put it down again. That's it, and you get totally taxed from that. I love that.
Yeah, it's
such
it's absurd,
like in quotation mark simple exercise, but it's so good. Yeah, in quotation marks, simple. It's a lot of technique in it. Yeah, it's a lot of technique in it, but it looks very simple. You just lift it, put it down. That's it. It's such a good exercise.
It does so much for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh God. And favorite game?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, right now, I would say I'm enjoying Hades a lot. Hades is it's wonderful, man. Like just from the music, the replayability, the ever expanding storyline that goes with it. It's a well put together game that still catches my attention.
Yeah. It's so well made. The voice actors are amazing.
Yeah, the voice actors too. They did a wonderful job with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a super good game. Awesome. Do you have any last wise words you want to share with us?
I guess I would say, I would say don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of starting. I know it can be very daunting to try something new and not have every single thing planned out. But we're focusing on trying to just improve a little bit better every day. We're not trying to hit perfection every day or try to reach that, because if we try to do it, then 90% of the time we're probably are never going to do it, because perfection is such an impossible type of feat to try to meet. And we should just focus on just improving a little bit better every time, so you can look at yourself a year from now, 2 years from now, and be like, you know what? I have improved in some way, and I'm proud of myself for doing that, instead of trying to achieve this very mystical type of thing where if you don't even hit close to that, then you feel disappointed and you feel deflated. So that's something I would like to share with people. Don't be afraid of starting, and just focus on just being a little bit better every time. It doesn't have to be a big amount. It could be 1%. It could be 0.01%. Yeah.
That's really good. That's super good last words. Perfection is a beast. All right. Street, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts. It's I would like to sit down with you for way longer and talk about this, because I think you have a lot to share and you have a long experience, and you have things collected in a very, very nice way. And I will put in the show notes, I will put your Twitch channel and Twitter and so on, so people can find you and interact with you and also follow you and so on. So thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I love being able to have these types of talks, especially with stuff that I love, that I do on a consistently daily basis. So being able to share my perspective on it is something that I'm very happy to be able to do. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Keep doing that.
I will, man. Thank you.
Right. Good. Have a nice day, rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of ActiveCast. If you want to know more about the topic we talked about, don't be shy to post a comment on our YouTube channel. You can also send your questions directly to ActiveCast through Twitter or mail to activecastpod@gmail.com. You find links and addresses in the show notes and in the description of the episode on YouTube. I would appreciate it a lot if you would like, rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to it. Also subscribe and interact on YouTube. It helps the podcast a lot to be able to reach a new and wider audience. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.